All right, here we go. Freeway Ricky Ross, welcome back.
Man, you already know.
Oh yeah. It's been what, our fourth or fifth time now?
Everybody like it, so, give the people what they want.
Well, every time millions of people watch, consistently, millions.
Good. They learning.
Oh yeah. Well, you're about to have a birthday next month.
Yeah, 26th of January.
And you're gonna turn how old?
I don't know. I don't want to talk about my age.
Well, I actually have the age, but if you don't want to say it, we're not going to say anything.
No, I'll be 60.
You'll be
It'll
60
be
years
60.
old.
Yeah.
Man, quite a journey at 60.
60 and still relevant.
At 19, where did you think you would be at 60 years old?
I never thought about being 60 at 19. Something never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
When you live in the streets, you basically live day to day. There's no 10 years from now. You never thought about like what it'd be like in 10 years, what it'd be like in 20 years. Especially when you're from South Central, where people don't make plans like that.
Yeah. And then at one point you were given life in prison.
Yeah.
And you were at that point considering 60 in a jail cell.
Yeah. When you're doing life in prison, you hope you don't get to be 60. You want to get it over with fast. I guess kind of like the article with Jesse Katz wrote. In the LA Magazine. It was over.
Yeah.
And days, you feel like it's over days. But then you get those days when you prep up and you just go extra hard. To make sure that you don't stay there forever.
Well, here you are at 60. You're out. You're healthy. You got a few dollars in your pocket. You got a roof over your head.
No. I'm rich again.
You're rich again. I didn't want to say it.
I'm gonna say it just for the record. You know what I'm saying? I just got my marijuana license.
Right. And I was going to talk about that. So you actually, you mentioned how you won a marijuana license. I guess it was like a lottery.
Like a lottery, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so explain that to me, because I guess there is a social equity program.
Yeah, that's what I won on social equity. Oakland was the first city in the country to do it, and what they did is they said that they should give reparations for the people who was affected by the war on drugs. And when they did it, some people in LA saw it, and they implemented the same program there. When I heard about it, I jumped on the boat and started riding with them. So I going to City Hall and, doing all the political things that you need to do to get it written into law. And it paid off. 6 years.
It took 6 years for you to get that license.
Yeah, I've been working on this for 6 years.
Wow. Okay, so explain to everyone how this works, because I remember I was around when they were doing, like, was it Prop 187? Or wait, what was that prop where they were legalizing medical marijuana?
Yeah, I think it was Prop 187, but I was in prison when that came out. So
right, and I remember I was hanging out with, some interesting type people, both, legal and illegal during that time. And they were all, there was this big party I went to. It was at this lawyer named Tony Serra's office. Tony Serra was one of the main lawyers in San Francisco that put that original bill together.
Okay.
And I remember how this was like revolutionary. It was like, yo, you're about to actually be able to legally buy marijuana.
It still is. I mean, even today, with social equity and all the cities coming online right now, this is still, this is going to be history. It's going to be monumental. I just can't believe that I fell into the same. I mean, it's almost like falling in the same shoe again, but it's like this time it's not cocaine, it's marijuana. But I see this revolution coming, and I got out of prison just in time to catch the wave, and I got off parole in time, because if I was on parole, I couldn't have participated. So it's like just so many things fell in place, and now, I'm starting to have a vision of where it's going and where it should be going. So I just fell in at the right time, man, and did my due diligence as always, and I got lucky.
How long did you were on parole or probation?
I was on parole.
For how long?
I actually did 6 years.
Okay, that's not too bad.
On a 7-year.
I mean, it's a lot, but considering everything.
I mean, the whole war on drugs is a crop. In my opinion, is a crop of shit. And then especially now, I'm listening to the Senate, the fuckers who make the laws, and they already had their mind made up before the jury ever. How many of those fuckers was on the jury when they sentencing people and they already got their mind made up and they never heard the evidence? Really, the public should throw these fuckers off of the Senate. Like how you already got your mind made up and you never heard the evidence. So have you been making laws without evidence all along? Is this the way you've been sending people to prison without evidence? We already know with the crack law, how they did with the crack law. The guy who wrote the bill for him, I was fortunate enough to interview in my documentary. He said he knew the law was racist from the beginning. So now, are we just doing things because it makes a particular person feel good, or it's a particular person's agenda, and it's no longer about the people? It's about how I feel or how my buddy feel who has the juice.
Well, there's been medical marijuana now for, I guess, about 20 years now, right?
20 years in California.
So you getting a license is not anything new, but because they were giving out licenses for a while now. All over California. What makes this social equity program different than what they've been already doing?
Well, it makes a difference because it gave people with like me with a felon conviction, it gave us priority. It gave us a leg up. Somebody got sensible, and what we found out is that most of this business is controlled by white men. Like 96% of the industry is controlled by white men. And we also found out that it's controlled by rich white men, not poor white people, but rich white people. So the social equity gives the average everyday person who's not a multimillionaire, who don't have the money to go out, because a one-time license is $100,000, non-refundable, you got to pay up front. So when you put all those hurdles in, it locks out the common folk who go and work a 9 to 5 and they saving their money to try to pay their rent.
Okay, and I guess you did an interview where you talked about the social equity program, but I guess rich people are swooping in and buying these licenses off people who actually get it using social equity?
Yeah. Some people say they run a policy where even they like buying black and Hispanic people, because the social equity mainly is for minorities who've been affected in certain area codes. And so what happened is people were going around saying, if you find me a social equity candidate, I'll give you $2,500 to bring them to me. So if you look at it, it's kind of like buying people, almost. And then when they get these people in, they're not really making them partners. They're setting them up to, in a year or two, they're going to give them $150,000 and have them to walk away from the industry.
Yeah, which to a person without money, $150,000 seems like all the money in the world.
Absolutely.
They think they're rich. And
and some
of
these
year
people,
later,
some of them, I even heard of stories where they were going down to like the unemployment office, the county building, literally talking people into getting involved with cannabis. And I felt that, I still feel that it should be for people who really want to be in this industry.
Well, with this license, you are officially a drug dealer again.
Absolutely, I love it. I love it.
Except this time you're doing it legally.
Yeah. I mean, my life has did a total 360. I just think to myself and I just laugh, like, used to run from the police, and now you're making the laws. I was sitting in Detroit about 2 weeks ago with the lawmakers, and we're sitting down drafting up a bill for social equity in Detroit. So it's just amazing how a life can be turned around.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty ironic that one of the biggest drug dealers in America who got sentenced to life in prison gets out and is now dealing drugs legally.
Yes, yes. Only in America.
Only in America. Shout out to Don King. Well, you talked about what your plans are now that you have a license. And it's kind of interesting. So you want to build an app, but you want it to focus to black people.
Yeah. I'm gonna focus on the black market. Not the black market, but the black market.
And, you said, well, they might say that I'm racist because I'm doing it, but I felt there are going to be a lot of black guys who are out there who are basically selling illegally, that now you could give them an opportunity to be, umbrellaed in under your new, under your legal license to actually start making money selling marijuana legally.
Yes. I want to teach them how to do it. I'm already working on the app. I got a guy who wrote an app for Uber, and he still has the format, and we're gonna take it and we're gonna flip it to marijuana.
I dig it. I dig it because there's certain, when you have a license, you can't just buy millions of pounds and then just have shops everywhere and do that.
No, you can only
there are limitations in terms of what you can do.
You can only have one shop.
You can have one shop.
You can have one shop, but you can deliver all over California.
Right. So the delivery system can go anywhere.
Everywhere and anywhere. And I spoke to the lady from the governor's office who put the bill in place. And the reason she did it, she said she felt that, certain cities like Inglewood and Compton, where they are not allowing dispensaries, there's people in those communities that wanted marijuana. So now, since they live there, they can't have marijuana because the city officials are saying, no, even though the people want it, we're not going to have it in our city. So what she said is that she was going to allow those people to be able to get their marijuana, so somebody from LA will be able to come to Compton or wherever and deliver it.
Well, you could just have one physical store, but if you have a delivery service, can you have like warehouses in other cities?
I don't know if you can have warehouses or not. But that's not really going to be a problem because you're allowed to carry $5,000 worth of product in your car on a delivery. So we'll just keep stocking them up. As they run out, we'll shoot another car to them.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting.
It's going to be interesting. I think it could rewrite the whole marijuana landscape. People going to be surprised.
Yeah, well, Reggie Wright Jr., who used to be head of security for Death Row, he was at one point involved in a marijuana dispensary. And then when the dispensary closed, he started basically selling on the side, and he ended up getting caught. He's doing 1.5 years in prison right now. Can you say what you're being sentenced for?
Oh yeah, sales of marijuana and money laundering.
Okay. A lot of marijuana?
Yeah.
Good amount. What's going to happen to an ex-cop in prison? Are you going to get put into PC?
Well, you go by your points. I've never been convicted of any crime or anything.
Okay.
I'm not in for a violent crime, so I'll be in somebody's camp, I'm sure.
A camp?
Okay.
And that's considered like a low security?
Yeah.
Okay. And apparently, with all these dispensaries and people legally being able to go and buy marijuana, the legal market is still up and running.
You mean the illegal market?
The illegal market, yeah. That's what
Oh,
I meant.
absolutely. Well, the illegal market is bigger than the legal market.
And why is that? Because me as a marijuana consumer, once I could go to a dispensary, I did not want the guy coming over to my house and hanging out.
Well, the price difference, with I think in LA it's like 38% taxes or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? So, you take an eighth from where you can get it on the street for probably like $20, $15. Now you're talking about $75, $80. So, and then, people have been used to buying from their neighborhood hustler, and they like their hustler and they like the weed that he had. So why change, And most people look at it, if it's legal all over, you know what I'm saying, for everybody. So until the state and the cities get their tax situation straight, And all these things have to be balanced out before the black market will go away. And then you know, people take care of their families with the black market. So, you know, you're talking about pushing people out of business from being able to take care of their family. So I think it's going to be a problem for quite some while.
Well, the illegal marijuana trade never really had the same level of violence that the hard drugs did.
Right.
You don't see the drive-bys over a marijuana block. You know, someone selling weed on the corner. Why do you think that there is such a difference between, you know, in terms of the violence between marijuana and like cocaine and crack?
Well, cocaine is more money. You know, you're talking about bigger money, bigger deals. So you know, where there's money, there's going to be violence. People want the money. You know, they don't necessarily want the cocaine, all of them. Some of them want the cocaine, some want the money. So, but anywhere there's a lot of money, there's going to be violence. And there is some violence related to marijuana, but not at the same intensity as the cocaine, because the money is not as great. And, you know, the police don't put as much focus on marijuana as they do on cocaine.
Well, you talked about how you believe the war on drugs has softened a lot, especially with the opioid epidemic that's happening right now.
Yeah, but it's softened on everything. I mean, from you know, I hear people that when we were in jail getting arrested now with, you know, heroin, PCP, and they're getting bails. You know, it's like, damn, they give out bails now. When we were coming along, you know, all they needed to say was that you were a danger to the community and you weren't getting a bail. And technically, anybody who, in their eyes, who sell drugs are a danger to the community. You know, it could be an ounce or 2 ounces, and they could label you dangerous to the community and deny you bail. But they're not doing that right now.
Well, the opioid thing is really starting to get pretty crazy. Just pulling up today, when I was coming to the studio, I got off the exit, and for the first time I saw a bunch of tents right next to the freeway exit, which I had never seen, and I've been at the studio for years and years. You go down to Skid Row in LA, and there's just entire cities.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's all depending on the drugs, though, man. You know,
I think that's the drugs. When you drive through there, those look like drug addicts. Those don't look like just basically people who can't afford rent. It looks like drug addicts.
Well, I'm sure the drugs has something to do with some of them, but here in LA, man, you know, and I can testify firsthand that anybody can be homeless. You know, average rent right now is in South Central is probably $2,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment, and they're hard to find. You know, so don't get a blemish on your credit or something like that. There, it's almost impossible to get housing. So I don't know if it's all drugs. I mean, drugs, I know the drugs definitely play a part. A lot of people down there are drug addicts, but then they got mentally ill, and, you know, so it's a lot more to our homeless problem than just drugs.
Well, just recently we lost a big artist, Juice WRLD.
Yeah, I heard about that.
21 years old. He was coming in on a private plane into Chicago, and apparently the feds were getting ready to search the plane. And this is someone who rapped about taking Percocets and Xans and Pop and Molly on pretty much every song. And although we don't have the exact story, the story is that when the feds were swooping in, he had a bunch of pills on him, and he ended up just swallowing a bunch of his pills, had a seizure, and died. 21 years old, had songs on the charts, millions of dollars, and you see this happen. And then once the whole investigation started to get exposed, the feds found 2 guns and 70 pounds of marijuana on the private plane. Does this surprise you at all?
Well, it do and it don't. Because I question these guys having money. You know, a lot of these rappers who we see and we look up to, and these labels make them look rich because they want you to feel like they have money so that you will think that there's something special. And then you find out that they're selling drugs on the side, And the only reason I could see somebody selling drugs on the side of a career would be if they're not really making money, or if they're just a damn fool. You know, for somebody to have millions of dollars and start to sell drugs when they never sold drugs before, to me would be totally insane.
Buju Banton, the reggae artist, who just recently got out of prison. Do you know about this story?
I don't.
Buju, maybe about 6-7 years ago, who was a Grammy-winning reggae artist with fans all around the world, was caught doing a pretty big cocaine sale with an undercover, and he was sentenced to like 7 years in prison. He just got out like last year. You see this all the time.
Yeah, but most of them don't have money. You know, most of these guys really don't have any money. And I've been around so many of these people, and I don't know, I'm used to having liquid cash. You know, like if I want to buy something for $100,000, I got the money to go buy it. And most of these people don't show me that they have the appearance, and the feel is not really there that they have that. You know, like you go sit down with dinner for them, you got to pay for the dinner. And I understand that sometimes, you know, that people feel that you should take care of them, but it just don't seem, you know, I just get that feeling like this guy don't have any money, you know, it's a front, it's a fake, you know, and I just get that kind of feeling about the whole industry, you know, like they blast these guys out, you know, because they say some of these guys are worth $600 million, but they have absolutely no footprint in the neighborhoods. You know, you don't see anything that they have done in the community, you know. Like LeBron James, he built a school.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, he took some money and he actually went and built a school, because the money that he's made is more money than he can ever spend, so he was willing to give something back. So you have these other guys who we all think are rich, and they don't have any money, because there's a difference between being famous and rich.
Oh, yeah.
See, I'm famous. And I just got rich.
Yeah, Suge Knight said most entertainers just want to be famous and have enough money to pay their bills.
And that's what I say, too. I would have to agree with Suge on that one.
Yeah, well, with Juice WRLD, I think he had money. He was doing shows, and he was probably doing at least $50,000 a show, if not more. He was a hot artist. He had songs on the charts, his albums. He had multiple platinum singles. I mean, there was probably other people, you know, who were getting a piece of that.
Yeah, it's kind of what kind of contract he had.
Yeah, exactly. But then there's the entourage.
Absolutely.
There's the bodyguards, there's the weed carrier, there's the manager, there's just his friend that he grew up with. You know, I'm not saying exactly who those people are, but
right.
You're
he said he had to pay those bills.
Yeah, and those guys aren't making the millions of dollars. So you see guys trying to hustle on the side. Next thing you know, the main guy gets caught up.
But you know, if you're making enough money, I mean, you got to be smart enough to know how to invest that money in something wisely that will give you a return. I mean, I've been barely making money, but I was able to look into the marijuana industry and see an avenue for me to get in with the very little money that I was making, because I was making very little money. It wasn't like I was getting $50,000 a week or a month or nothing like that. Mm-hmm. But I was able to take the little money that I was getting and put myself in a position to where I could catapult myself to where I'm trying to go.
What's going to be the name of the dispensary?
I don't know yet. I know what I'm gonna name my bakery. We got a bakery too up in Fresno that's licensed. So that's gonna be Rick's Kitchen.
Okay. Love it. Well, we've been talking about this over our last few interviews, the Tekashi 6ix9ine situation. And just recently, he finally got sentenced.
Yeah, how much time you get?
He got 2 years.
Pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Probably get to go to camp.
Well, he's already done 13 months, and he's got 2 years total, and his lawyer's saying he's getting out next July.
Sounds about right. He on 2 years, you usually do about 21 months, not counting halfway house.
Right. So
So
he'll probably
he
be in a halfway house by July, is what they're saying.
Well, really, he probably could be in a halfway house before that, because you can get a year halfway house now with the feds.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
He told on everybody.
Not surprised.
He took down the whole 9 Trey Blood set, which was the oldest blood set in New York.
I'm not surprised. I think we talked about that before,
Yes, we did.
and I told you he probably would.
You predicted it. He was considered a phenomenal witness. Not only did he tell on everyone who got arrested, but he actually brought light to crimes they didn't even know about. He implicated people that were not being charged.
Wow.
He went all out. We actually had some of the audio footage from his, from him being
From
on the
his hearing?
stand, which was sneaked out somehow because you're not allowed to tape in New York. But it was crazy listening to it. This guy really brought down everybody, and people were getting football numbers.
Wow.
15 years here, 12 years there.
Well, that's better than the 80s. The 80s, they was like 20, 30, 35, 40, you know, so still better.
Yeah.
Still better numbers. 12 was much better than 20.
Yeah. So none of this actually surprises you.
No, I saw it. I mean, I lived in the feds for 20 years, so I saw guys walk in. I've been in the holding tank when whole groups come in, the whole organization.
Mm.
And, you know, we sit in the holding tank and we be like, who you think gonna tell?
Well, without him, if everyone else had remained silent, there's a reasonable chance that people would have gotten either dismissed or slaps on the wrist or...
Not dismissed, nah.
Nah?
No. When the feds come, they got some evidence.
98% conviction, something like that?
Yeah, and you know, with the feds too, right? The feds don't have to have solid cases like the state. See, people be looking at the state cases and they be like, oh, well, they didn't have this and they didn't have that. The feds don't really need that. The feds can bring in witnesses that can describe the scenario, and then the jury is allowed to infer what could have happened. You know, it's not like that they have to show you what happened, but you can look at this and say, well, if this happened, if the ball got moved from point A to point B, you know, somebody moved it. Who do you think moved it?
Yeah. Nah, I feel you. I feel you.
So it's a pretty good chance that they were all going to get found guilty anyway. And him testifying just amplified their evidence, you know, where they probably was able to get somebody else to plead guilty that may have went to trial had he not testified.
What I found really interesting about this case is at one point there was a video that surfaced. And at the time, Tekashi was beefing with Chief Keef. And after a conversation with someone from their camp, he goes, "Oh, I got 20,000 for anyone who gonna do that shooting." And one of the guys, Kodak Black, went and did that shooting. Tekashi then went and testified against Kodak Black.
Wow.
That he
Paid him.
He paid him like 10,000. You know, shots were fired. No one was hit. Tekashi's walking away with 2 years.
Kodak Black getting
Kodak
15.
is facing 20. That would be like me selling you a kilo of cocaine and then calling the police saying, "Hey, I know someone who's buying drugs from me." You get...
That's the same way my case was, though.
You get 20 years.
That's the same way my case was. My informant called me and he was selling the cocaine for the feds.
Yeah.
And asked me, "Hey, you want some cocaine?"
Yeah.
But the only difference is that, see, if 6ix9ine would have already been an informant, he would have got the entrapment defense. But since he wasn't already on the payroll for the government, then he wasn't entitled to an entrapment defense.
Yeah, I just don't see legally how you get 2 years being involved, being the mastermind of a crime that you then testify against the other person and they get a massively big sentence compared to yours, but you are the instigator of the crime. I just don't get that part. And I feel that the message this is being sent out to people is that, hey, go and do as much crime as you want, go crazy, cause havoc, and as long as you tell on everybody,
You good.
you're okay.
We've been like that with Sammy the Bull.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not the first times that this has happened. I mean, now it's more visible, more people are starting to learn about it, but our government has been working like this. You know, they've been using informants, they've been paying people, they've been using reverse stings, because when the government is selling you the drug, that's called a reverse sting, meaning that it's not in going forward the way it's supposed to go. They backed up and went the other route. So, but they've been doing this, and it's just the public now just catching up to what's been going on.
Yeah, I interviewed Michael Franzese, who was one of the high-ranking members of the Colombo crime family, and he knew Sammy the Bull. And we talked about how Sammy killed people that he admitted to, and he's free.
Yeah.
He's out doing interviews. In our last interview, you talked about how you knew Sammy the Bull.
Yes.
And this guy, he admitted to 15 murders?
He admitted to 19 murders.
19 murders.
What's amazing to me is that a guy one day can be the scum of the earth, and then when he becomes a government witness, all of a sudden he's cleaned up and he's come straight, and now he's doing the right things, and you know, he's honest. You can believe everything he says. He wouldn't lie. After that day he told the last lie. He's never gonna lie again. So, you know, I mean, it just baffles me how jurors and judges can sit there and allow these things to take place. But I also understand, you know, from the government's position as well, you know, a lot of times they can't get inside the circles, you know, so you have to use somebody who was actually inside the circle. But it's just a grimy business, man, you know, and when you don't know what you're getting into, then you don't know that all of this stuff takes place. And when I got involved with drugs, I didn't know that it took place either. But now that I know that everything goes. You know, a DA agent can have sex with you.
Really?
Yeah.
That's considered totally legal.
That's legal. Totally legal for them to have sex with you. Unethical, but it's not going to get your case dismissed because you say, oh, well, I had sex with her, so when she testifies or when he testifies, they're going to throw it out. No, they're not going to throw it out behind those grounds. They're going to say, well, you know, you shouldn't have went that far. You know, you was in cover, but they get deep with this thing, man. It gets dirty.
Well, yeah, I interviewed this guy, Brian Glaze Gibbs. He was the enforcer for Fat Cat, who was the biggest drug dealer on the East Coast.
I met Fat Cat in passing.
Okay, in the feds.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he testified against Fat Cat. Fat Cat, I believe, is doing life in prison or something close to
Yeah, I don't remember. We never made friends. We was just like,
Yeah.
I don't know if we was in one of the transfer facilities or something like that, you know, and somebody was like, oh, that's Fat Cat. And, you know, we shook hands. And
Well, Brian Glaze Gibbs testified against Fat Cat. In the process of the testimony, he admitted to 5 different murders. Murders that they didn't even know he was involved in. He ended up getting 10 years. And, you know, he came on Vlad TV and was basically detailing, oh, yeah, I killed him by doing this. I killed her by this way. Oh, this guy here, yeah, my man got robbed and he didn't do nothing, so I killed him here. You went to trial and you were acquitted for murder.
Yes,
Even though
I was guilty.
even though you were guilty, and because you were acquitted, you could actually talk about it now.
Yes.
Because there's no double jeopardy situation. And because he admitted to the murders and he did the time, he's able to freely talk about them.
yeah, they gave him immunity.
Yeah, and you know, he'd already beat one murder before. He had killed the girlfriend of this guy that robbed him. So here is a person with 6 murders that they admit to, who only did 10 years time. and it's just kind of crazy.
Well, you do less time for murders than you do for selling drugs. They've been punishing drugs harder than murders. Oh yeah, you can you can kill somebody, and if it's a manslaughter or could have been an argument, maybe the guy hit you or something, and you shot him, and kind of like self-defense, almost, but not quite self-defense. You're probably gonna get 2 or 3 years.
This is not those type of murders. These are the type of murders that I'm talking about with Glaze.
You talking about murder for hire?
Murder for hire, retaliation. At one point, a rival crew threw a Molotov cocktail in Fat Cat's mother's house, and some people died. And
those are the kind of murders that usually supposed to get you the death penalty or
Yeah.
life without the possibility
Well,
of
he
parole.
went and killed the guy who did that. Like a retaliation murder.
Retaliation. Well, those should be considered like premeditated. Where you thought it out and you planned it and but these prosecutors make deals with anybody, man. They are so zealous in their pursuit of stopping drug dealing that there's almost no limit that they'll go through to stop it.
Well, you've praised Kim Kardashian's efforts with the whole criminal justice reform thing that she's doing right now.
I think what she's doing is amazing. That being her status, that she don't have to do that, and to to look out for the little people. Somebody should, other than me.
Why do you think she's doing it?
Well, I guess once you get so much, and you feel so fortunate that you have to start to help other people.
Yeah, I mean, she's actually meeting with Trump
Yeah,
multiple times.
She got remember she got the one lady out that was doing a life sentence, the older lady, which I don't know why she was doing life anyway, but she got her out. She went to Trump and got her out, and I thought it was crazy at first what Kanye was doing, but I think it's good that they're trying to help reform prisoners.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of things changed since you were active. The whole DNA, the Freedom Project, was it? Where they started going through all the DNA evidence.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
I mean, they're going back and reevaluating situations that, using technology that just wasn't even available back then.
Yeah, because we know that I've met guys who people identified them as being the rapist, and then when the DNA come back, it wasn't him. So, when you're going through the court, they say the court system is blind, but it's not. You put a black guy in, and you say he raped a white woman. You know what I'm saying? And the jury get him, and the lady says, "Oh yeah, it was him." 9 times out of 10, he's going to prison for a long time.
Or he's taking a plea deal because he's too scared for the actual jury verdict.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Central Park 5.
Yeah.
Look how far those cops went to even setting those guys up and making them, I know I seen some people on the news saying, oh, it didn't happen the way the movie portrayed it. But if it was anywhere near the way the movie portrayed it, those cops should have went to prison.
I interviewed 2 of them.
Oh, did you?
I did. Raymond Santana and Yusuf Salam, I believe.
Yeah.
And we talked about that whole situation. And these were just regular kids. No criminal records. They thought the cops were their friends. They were just hanging out at Central Park one night. And then this happens. And there was no DNA evidence. There was no witnesses, including the woman who was raped. And they were sentenced. A lot of them did their prison time until that one guy who's the actual rapist found God and decided to come forward and
well,
admit
in
to
the movie
everything.
they said they had DNA in the cap. In the movie they said they had the DNA, but the cops hit the DNA because the DNA went against their theory. So and I know too much about crooked cops planting drugs, lying on witness stands, and all that stuff. So I know exactly what the cops are capable of.
since last time that we were here, Kodak Black got sentenced to almost 4 years. You heard about this?
I don't know who Kodak Black is. I heard of him, but I haven't really paid much attention to him. Is he the one that they got into it with about Nipsey's girlfriend or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I heard of him from that, I think.
So Kodak Black is an artist from Florida. And, I mean, he had been in a bunch of trouble over the years since he was about 15 or so. And he was a felon on probation, and he decided to go to multiple gun stores and buy guns and not check off that he was a felon on probation. One of those guns was found at a scene of a crime where someone got shot. And all that put together ultimately got him almost 4 years in prison.
Well, he wasn't a felon. Because he'd have been a felon, it could have got him 10 years just for having a gun.
I believe he was a felon.
Well, you know, if you're an ex-con with a gun, the guidelines start at 10 years. Just for the ex-con with a felon. Now, they could still give you possession of the firearm, whatever that was, or whatever the crime was. The 10 years go on top of whatever else that you get caught with.
Yeah, he's going to lose tens of millions of dollars while he's sitting in a cage. He was on the top of his game. He was probably getting $100,000 a show. He had platinum singles. He was really one of the biggest artists out there. And now he has to do nothing for 4 years. Almost 4 years. I think like 3 years, 8 months.
He might come out bigger.
He
Boosie
might.
did. Boosie came out bigger than he was.
True. But what would have happened had he not gone in?
Who knows?
Who knows? His biggest songs might have been recorded during that time.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah, and Boosie came out bigger, but a lot of his biggest songs was from before he got locked up. You lose momentum.
You can, but he could have kept his momentum going. I think Boosie made some mistakes with his career that he could have done better. You know, we talked a little bit, and you know, we didn't get to collaborate the way I was hoping that we would have. But I think that he could have been a much bigger artist than he is right now, had he went some different routes.
Well, yeah, we talked about this, and he said how, and this was like a message to everyone out there, to all the rappers out there. He said you cannot be a gangster and a rapper at the same time. And the reason why he ended up in prison was because he was trying to do both.
It is impossible. You
Impossible.
cannot do both. If you a real gangster, now fake gangsters and rappers, they can do that. But when you a real gangster and a rapper, you can't do both, man.
You absolutely cannot do both. You're either gonna rap and go to the studio,
Kind
do
of like selling
shows.
drugs. That's what we used to say about selling drugs. You can't be a gangbanger and a drug dealer.
Explain.
Well, say for instance, if you're a drug dealer and you want to stand on the block and sell drugs, well, your rivals know where you at, so they can just come by and take pot shots at you anytime they get ready. So it's hard to do both, and I can agree with Boosie on that. I would think that it would be hard to be up on stage, especially with, you know, if they got some of the hardcore gangbangers like when we were growing up. You know, these guys would shoot you wherever they saw you. You know, if you disrespected them or if they felt that they were supposed to kill you, they just kill you wherever it's at and then deal with the consequences. So definitely it would be tough.
Well, you talked about, I think it was on Drink Champs, how you were one of the guys that basically brought together Bloods and Crips. They were all working with you.
Well, the drug business did it.
The drug business.
I didn't do it by myself.
Right, but you would sell to both, even though you were not a Crip, but you were from a Crip neighborhood.
Correct.
And affiliated with the Hoovers. The Bloods would still come, and you would sell to them just the same.
Yeah. Well, I when you say affiliated, I lived in that neighborhood, but I was affiliated with the Bloods too.
Yeah.
Because the Bloods went to our elementary school before, you know, the neighborhood separated. So I was affiliated with both then. all along. I never stopped being affiliated. I just never chose sides.
When you talked about how when money comes in the picture, people put aside their differences.
Sometimes. Most of the time. I think most people will try to find a way to compromise when money's involved.
Yeah. Yeah. And, during that time, I mean, these days, YG and Nipsey Hussle were doing songs, and you didn't have these color lines like you did in the 80s.
Right.
In the 90s.
In the 80s, that wouldn't have happened.
A Blood and a
way.
Crip doing a song together,
No
that was considered insane.
No.
Even
way
being in
would
the same
happen.
studio together was considered crazy.
The same block, even.
Right.
I mean, it was ridiculous back then. So now you got Crips wearing red, and when I was in junior high school, my mom bought me a pair of red Converse, and everybody at the school teased me until I wore those shoes out. I should drag my foot to school every day so I could wear those shoes out as quick as possible. But it's just a different environment now. Not as important as it used to be, and it changed a little bit, hopefully for the better.
Yeah, people like Big U, who I've interviewed, who is actually involved with the city to do conflict resolution in some of these neighborhoods.
I would like to see the program that I have implemented in every community because it's been successful. What we do with the kids, what we do with the homies that's coming home from prison, offering them jobs, helping them do stuff, is you can say where we used to be, but you can say now as men we make decisions that are productive to our communities.
I see you on the street with bus loads of kids.
Yeah.
So what he's doing is definitely needed, and to have somebody like you pushing that line, the way he's pushing it now is something that everybody looks to, and follow the leader,
Yeah, I mean, he talked about in our interview how the murder rate in LA is the lowest since there's been gangs in LA. It's that low now.
That's good. But and LA's changing too. LA is not as black and Hispanic as it used to be. So it's gentrifying. So the murder rate is probably going to continue to fall because the people who used to live there, who are not as sophisticated. I was in St. Louis one time and I was doing a radio show, and the guy who was also doing the show with me, he had did a survey on the people who got killed in St. Louis that year, and he said none had a high school diploma. And what that told me is that not being educated had a direct effect on you being able to live.
They say that you ran close to $1 billion drug operation. Is that accurate?
I didn't make $1 billion myself. I probably touched $1 billion, but it wasn't mine. I made a good living for myself, I was in a position where I could spend $100,000 every day if I wanted to, wouldn't have hurt me. I was making $1 million a day, sometimes 3, sometimes 2. And I did that for about 2 years.
What were you buying?
Motel, my tire shop, theater, speedboat.
Oh, you had a speedboat.
I bought it for my boy for his birthday.
Okay.
I never bought him a present. So
you bought him a speedboat.
Yeah, so I was out one day, and me and my partner, and he had liked the speedboats on Miami Vice. So we was passing by, and we saw these boats that they were building, and we pulled over and we started looking at them, and I was like, man, I should just buy this for Al for his birthday. It's tomorrow.
How much was it?
I think we paid like $100,000 for it.
$100,000.
Yeah.
Cash.
Yeah, they took cash.
They took cash.
They took cash. The boats was it was somebody else's boat had ordered it, and I think they got in trouble, and so I bought it.
Well, in the documentary, some of the Freeway boys were talking about how you would actually show these guys $1 million in cash to inspire them.
Yeah. Well, one of the most important things is vision. Without vision, you can't aspire to climb if you don't think that you can. So it was important for me to show them that. And with me, you can't tell if I got money or not. Because I don't care about clothes. I don't care about none of the designer outfits and how I look and all that. That's not important to me. What's important to me is being able to do whatever I want to do when I want to do it. So unless when they actually see the money, they don't know that you have money. So yeah, I have showed them $1 million.
Well, you show someone $1 million and you say, hey, if you work hard like me, you can get this, but not everyone's a hard worker.
No, most people are not.
Most people are not. In fact, I remember I interviewed Nick Cannon, and we were talking about money and hustling, and he said, most people are not hustlers. Most people just want to pay their bills and die. I believe in hustling. I believe okay, look.
Facts, and everybody doesn't have that hustler spirit.
And just because
some people are designed to be worker ants.
Right. You have
Everybody's
runs.
not a soldier.
I had a great run as a DJ. At one point I realized, hey, I'm getting too old for this shit. I'm not going to keep supporting myself by doing these club gigs and so forth. It's time for me to switch up and do something completely different.
Yeah.
And that's where the videos
cut
and the movies
from a different cloth. Like everybody doesn't have that ingenuity.
I respect hustlers. I don't respect people
the
sit down
majority
and,
of the world, that middle class that we were talking about, they're employees.
I feel you.
Like we gotta have, because
you.
you know what? If we don't have any employees, we don't have any hustlers.
Right, but I try to push people to aspire for more.
But everybody don't have that in them. Like some people just want to be the best employee they can possibly be. Some people just want good jobs with good benefits.
Yeah.
Some people want to, pay bills and die.
I don't know if that's necessarily true either. I think people have to know that they can make it.
That it's possible.
That it's possible.
That it's not rigged.
Because if they don't think it's possible, if you think you're going to fail, then there's no sense in you trying.
Yeah.
But if you think you can win, it's worth a try. And I think with, especially in the black community, the young black man has been beat down by the system so bad that he looks down on himself and he has so low self-esteem for himself, and he don't think that he can. Most of them don't think that they can rise to heights that people wouldn't even believe. Like with me, if I started talking about some of the things I see myself doing, people would think I was crazy.
Yeah, or you're just bragging.
Or bragging.
Yeah.
More crazy though, it's because bragging. I mean, when you did you ever get to read that LA Magazine article that Jesse Katz did?
I did. No.
Jesse literally called me insane about the things that I told him that I was going to be doing when I got out of prison. First of all, he didn't think I was going to ever get out of prison because he was writing my obituary.
Oh.
You got to read my obituary. I got to read my own obituary. I'm one of the few people alive that got to read their own obituary.
Hold on, I'm about to look this up. You have an obituary written about you already.
Yeah.
Hold on, and it's actually out there. Hold on.
Yes. LA Magazine, 2000.
There you go, Los Angeles Magazine.
There it goes.
LA's most famous dope man was doing life. I was writing his obituary. The actual obituary is not in the article, is it?
That's it. The whole article.
The whole article's obituary.
The whole article, but I got to speak on my obituary.
Aha, because they thought that you were essentially dead because you're doing life in prison.
Yeah, he said I was going to die inside of a prison wall, is what he was saying. I got the message, and I wasn't mad at him for saying that, but also in that same article, he talks about me being crazy, like I lost my mind, and, I'm talking to him about boxing. I'm going to be doing boxing. I'm going to be doing records. I'm going to have a mixtape. I'm going to have a book. I'm going to be telling politicians what to do. I'd already saw these visions had already came into my mind now. He was talking about me reading all these books that had taught me some things that nobody else had ever taught me before. Even in the dope game, I I never knew that you could literally write your future. You know, like right now, I write my future out in plain sight of what I'm going to be doing. You know, these are the steps that I'm going to be taking.
Oh yeah, one of the important things that I read from Richard Branson, who was the founder of Virgin.
I know who Richard is.
He said that when you set your goals, let's say your goal is to make $100,000 this year. Set your goal to be $1 million. You may not hit that million, but you'll probably get a lot farther than 100,000. Because if you set your goal at 100,000 and you meet that halfway through the year, you're gonna get lazy for the other half because you've already met it. You could check that off. But
Well, you know what I did? When I started selling cocaine, my goal was to make 5,000. But along the way, I fell in love with the game.
yeah,
So it stopped being about the money. It just turned into being a game. So what I found out is when you're doing it for the love of the game and not the money, then the money just comes.
yeah,
It just starts to pour in and you don't even care about it.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
You just want to keep winning in the game. Because you know if you keep winning in the game, they're going to keep offering you bigger checks.
Well, as you're building up your drug empire, LA just becomes too hot. The cops are after you.
The Freeway Task Force.
Freeway Task Force
The
is
dirty
coming together.
ones.
Yep.
The real gangsters.
How big was the Freeway Task Force?
They was at least 35 got suspended. They probably was even bigger than that.
It's like 50 deep.
At least. You know what they did is they took 2 cops from the 2 most elite cops from each police station that I was supposed to be dealing in, and they formed the Freeway Task Force, and that's how they put them together.
Well, it got so hot for you in LA that you started going to other states.
Yeah, we had been going to other states already.
But at one point, you just moved out of LA completely.
Yeah. Well, I felt, I would rather go to jail in a place that was tougher than LA on crime for something I did than to go to prison in LA for something I didn't do.
Got it. Well, being in LA, you were born and raised. Well, you weren't born in LA, but you were raised in LA.
I was raised in LA, 3 years old.
Yeah. You were there since a little kid. You know people, you know families. If someone approaches you to buy quantity, you can make some phone calls and figure out who this person is affiliated with and connect the dots and decide whether or not you want to take the risk.
Yeah, I raised my guys though.
The Freeway Boys.
Yeah, I didn't need outside people.
But you still have to deal with outside people to a certain degree.
Well,
as your operation grows.
I really didn't because I had my own money.
Oh, and your
so
crew.
if you came to me, you was my guy, and you said, "Man, I got somebody want to buy 20 kilos." I could literally say, "Here, take the 20 kilos and go serve him." I didn't have to go with you.
Okay. How do you set up shop in a whole new area? If you go to like a Cincinnati or some of these other places you were going to, how do you touch down in a totally new city and accept the risk that you're taking at that point?
Well, it's pretty easy. I mean, and you know, I told you in the book. I don't know. I know you read the book, so you already see how I do it. Well, basically, what I did is I asked my mother-in-law, did she know anybody that smoked cocaine? And she said, "Yeah, I do." So she took me over to his house. I went in his house. We talked. We shook hands. And I pulled out a rock about this big. It was an ounce of cocaine. And it was yay thick. And I said, "If you get me 10 people over here, you guys can smoke this rock right now." And he got on the phone. And literally his door started going like this here. I had my little brother standing there. And he gave everybody the phone number. This way you can get the same thing. And that was the beginning.
Right. But all the areas at that point already had drug dealers. They had some level of drug trade.
Yeah, probably so.
And when you've cornered the market in a particular city and an outsider comes in, And someone like yourself who's doing quantity has much cheaper prices, probably has better products. It's not stepped on and diluted. People feel some type of way about that.
Well, when I would go, though, I wouldn't try to dominate the market like that. I wouldn't go and drop the price, because I get it for 10 and everybody else is selling it for 40. I ain't finna start selling it for 20. I'm gonna go $1 under what they charging, but I'll probably get more service, be more kind to them because I'm killing the game. You're literally killing the game every time you sell one. But I wouldn't just go in there and kill the market. And I also would try to befriend him once I find out about him, and because I would find out about him before he would find out about me, and try to start selling to him.
How often would people get upset and try to retaliate?
I've never had it happen.
Never.
Never.
Okay, because you're not trying to just move them out of business completely.
Now, I don't want all the money. So remember, I'm not doing this for money. It's not about money with me. It's about, can you win the game?
Well, when you originally started, you started at the very bottom. And you slowly built up your plugs until you got to Danilo Blandon, who became your biggest supplier. And Blandon would actually call you and tell you when your crack houses were about to get raided.
That was in the end, yeah.
At the end. Was he already working with the feds at that point?
No. They never told us when he started working and when he quit.
Okay.
With his stuff was a lot of redacted and blacked out and sensitive. So that was one of the reasons that I felt that my case should have been totally reversed under Brady versus Maryland, because anytime that there's exculpatory evidence that the government don't turn over to you is a reversible error. And it was so much stuff like his green card was illegal. that wasn't favorable to my defense, where we could have told the jury, hey, he's not supposed to be sitting in this witness stand testifying. So when you're dealing with somebody on such a high profile as Danilo Blandon, it kind of like changes the scenario a little bit. It's not the same scenario as an everyday case.
Well, at one point, Blandon, his house gets raided, and they find just a little bit of cocaine or something like that, and they end up letting him go, and then he gets made a U.S. resident or something of that sort afterwards?
No, he didn't get to be a U.S. resident. That's the time that they forged his green card. The INS agent forged his green card.
Okay.
So he got to be a U.S. resident after he got caught with 10,000 kilos of cocaine.
Okay, but early on...
He got raided. He did. But he didn't get a green card then.
Okay, but early on, he was getting raided, and then the police would be approached by the feds, and the feds would say, you're not even supposed to...
let him go.
Yeah, let him go. You're not supposed to be here.
Yeah, they came and took all of the evidence from the police station or something like that, I believe. Now, that part of the, I don't really know just what I read, and heard. So I don't really know the whole details on how that went. But I heard that they raided his house. They took him to jail, but it was a small amount. They wound up giving him back all of his property and so forth. And whatever the police had confiscated, the feds came to the police station and took it. That's what... what's his name? Juarez says in my documentary.
Mm-hmm. One of your guys is in the documentary, one of the Freeway boys. And he was talking about a particular incident when he was using 12 and 13-year-olds to sell crack. And some of the people they were selling to were like 10 years old. And he talked about a particular instance when someone knocked on his door, and at first he thought no one was there. And then when he finally figured out that there was someone there and he opened the door, it was a 10-year-old at his door wanting to buy some crack because he was already addicted. I mean, you had to have seen some of this.
Not that young. The youngest guy I had working for me was about 14.
Still very young.
Yeah, young, but not really. These guys are men, though. They are 14-year-old men. I'm talking about these guys have saw so much and been through so much that they're not your average everyday 14-year-old. These are the kind of guys that you don't play with them. They grown men, and they don't play. They serious. So I've saw it that young, but never 10 years old.
Well, the buyers were 10 years old, is what he was saying in your own documentary.
Yeah, I heard him say that. And he was younger than, he was a little younger than I was. He was about 17 himself. So maybe he saw, some younger things than what I did. But I've never saw a 10-year-old in L.A. Involved with cocaine.
Well, in that same documentary, he talked about how his daughter was born essentially a crack baby. And because, well, I guess he said he never did crack himself, but because he was around it and he was handling cocaine so much and ended up somehow getting into the bloodstream or whatever else.
I agree with that. If you cook enough cocaine, you're going to get high.
Yeah. And his daughter, I mean, not only was she unbelievably premature, she said she fit like in his hand, but her bladder was actually outside of her body when she was born. She made it through, but he talked about how he's unsure, like whether she could have children, and she still has a scar. And it was, I teared up watching it. I watched the documentary again this morning, and it was like, wow, like to see your
a
daughter.
lot of people was affected by those words. I don't know, how that happened, if it was going from him, but you do get high if you cook enough. I mean, myself, I found myself being up for days after a cook, like can't sleep. We cook at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I don't go to sleep. I just continue the day from 4 o'clock starts my day. And what I eventually equated it to was being around so much cocaine. And then even we got masks, we got the gas masks where we started wearing gas masks, but I don't think that did the trick either. But definitely, if you cook enough, you would definitely be getting high.
Well, at one point, there was the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1986. And the laws just went haywire. It completely changed after that. What was the biggest significance of that act?
Well, in my personal opinion, I think it was racially motivated. The 100 to 1.
And the 100 to 1 refers to
100 to 1 for powder versus crack. If you got caught with an ounce of cocaine, and one person got caught with an ounce of crack cocaine, he would get 100 times worse sentence than the person who got caught with an ounce of powder. Say, for instance, you could get caught with almost 5 kilos of cocaine, and your max sentence will be 5 years. You probably could plead out to a year and a half. So if you got caught with 5 keys of crack cocaine, you get life without the possibility of parole.
Mm. Yeah, and that just devastated the black community.
Absolutely. Well, and, matter of fact, I don't know if you know Richie Rich, but Richie Rich was the first person sentenced under the 3-strike crack law, where he got caught with 2 ounces, and he was 19 years old, and they gave him a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
But he's out.
He's out now.
What happened with that?
When the Obama administration redid the laws, they made them, I think it's only like 9 to 1 now, or 8 to 1, or 7 to 1, or something like that. So that lowered his sentence enough to where he was immediately released. Little Tommy's out now, but same thing. I think Tommy got caught with 4 kilos of crack, and he got his life sentence. So those laws helped a lot of people.
Well, at one point, Blandon got arrested, and he was facing life.
4 lives.
4 life sentences?
Yeah, 4 life sentences. I think if I say it the way my lawyer said that the prosecutor said, is that if Danilo Blandon wanted to make a deal. He was gonna have to bring the moon.
What was he caught with?
10,000 kilos.
10,000 kilos. Okay, I didn't know that. Oh, hold on, I'm going to do some math here. 10,000 kilos. A kilo was going for how much back then? Retail?
15 probably.
$150 million worth of cocaine. Which, after you rock it up.
Well, when it goes to the end users,
Yeah. This
probably turn into
half $1 billion.
Probably turn into $1 billion.
Billion
when you go
dollars.
to the end user, to the
end
guy
user.
who gets in, he sells a $10 rock on the street.
So
the cocaine it has a way of generating all the way down the chain. Because one guy he'll buy a kilo, then he'll sell ounces. Then the guy who sells the ounces, he'll sell some eighths, and then the guy who sells eighths, he might sell a gram, and the guy who buys a gram might smoke a piece and sell a few pieces.
right, and it's getting cut along the way.
all the way down.
You're mixing it
Everybody
in with
getting
other
cut
shit.
out. And then the guy who buy a $10 piece, he might take a hit of that and $5 and sell another $5. So it just
Okay, so he had about $1 billion worth of drugs, essentially. If you look at it all the way down the line,
the way that the government would have looked at it.
4 life sentences. They let him out, right at the same time that you get out.
Yeah, I think he got out 4 or 5 days after me.
With the purpose of setting you up.
They never said that, but that was our theory. That the only purpose, the only person who named on the letter that they took to the judge was my name. We felt they misled the judge in the letter. The letter went something like, we want to let Mr. Blandon out so he can reestablish his relationship with Mr. Ross, who is a large crack cocaine dealer in the Los Angeles area.
There was part of the documentary where the head of the CIA was speaking to the community.
Yeah.
And one of your guys, I guess, was being sentenced right around the same time
My
as you.
crime, Chico.
Chico, was saying how Blandon was paid $166,000.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Well, they give him a reward. Like if you're an informant, they'll pay you. Not only that once you're out of trouble, you don't work your way over, you're not doing no jail time. Now they put you on a payroll. So they'll start to pay you by how big of a person you bring in. And apparently they said that we was big enough for him where he could get $177,000 or something like that.
Okay. He gets out, and you're out as well.
Yeah.
And he starts to call you up, and
He called me before he got out, though. The first phone call, he was at the DA office
Okay.
when he called me.
So he's calling you up and say, "Hey, I got 100 kilos for you for $10,000 a kilo."
We didn't start at 10,000.
Oh, what did it start at?
It started at 17, I think it was.
But you got him down to 10.
Yeah, I guess you could say. I guess you could say 10 hit my button.
Okay. And this went on for months. It's not like he called you up and then
6 months.
Yeah. Now, you had just walked away from beating a case. You had done some.
Yeah, I didn't really. I did time, but the sheriffs had got me a short time.
How long did you do?
5.5 years.
Okay. Here you are, 5.5 years that you just did. You're free. You got some money. Not a lot of money, but you have some money.
No, I was broke.
Well, you were building a community center.
No, I had the center left over from when I got out. It was still there. That was one thing that I held on to while I was gone.
Okay.
So I didn't have the money to finish it. I was in foreclosure, $30,000 in foreclosure. I had also tricked myself into believing that this theater was me, almost like I did at one time about cocaine.
Right, because you were buying a theater.
Huh?
You were in the process of buying a theater and you owed a little bit more money on it.
Yeah, I bought the theater. I'd owed $300,000 on it. But what's more important, not it don't even matter about it's the mental attachment. You know, like I've been in the newspaper talking about this building. I've been on TV talking about this building. You know, all the rappers came down and they supposed to help me with this building. You know, this is gonna be the hub for hip hop in LA. You know, this building is gonna be where every rapper in this country is gonna want to get on this stage. And I had made that my almost like my everything, you know, like this is the most important thing to me in almost in the world, you know. Oh no, this is worth going back to jail for, you know, where I started to feel like I'm willing to take a chance, even if it's gonna cost me a life sentence.
So here you are, 5.5 years. Everyone knows who Freeway Ricky is. You've been all over the news. No, but you're doing interviews.
Yeah, not like now though. It's
Okay.
Total different animal right now.
I feel you.
Than it was then. It wasn't the internet. Still was no internet.
Yeah, but at one point, no one even knew who you are or what you look
Oh no,
like.
they had no pictures or nothing like that.
Now
There was some pictures,
there's
some
pictures.
footage. I've been on day one, Monday, right after Monday Night Football,
Yeah.
commercials doing the Oprah Winfrey show. So
Exactly.
yeah, I mean it was a little, but then it was still more of people who were sophisticated,
Yeah.
more say than like every average day people. You know, the most people don't watch the news. You know, they watch Monday Night Football, the news come on, they turn it off.
we decided to do that one last deal.
Yeah.
100 kilos for $10,000 a kilo.
Yeah, that's what I told myself that was gonna be my last deal.
So that was $1 million.
Yeah, it was $1 million deal.
You had the cash?
No, they was giving me the drugs on credit.
Oh, aha.
Yeah, they was gonna help me out.
He was hooking you up.
Yeah, they wouldn't loan me the money to finish the theater, but they'd loan me 100 kilos of cocaine.
And you could use the kilo money to
Catch up my
do the
building.
theater, and then that's it. You're out.
Yeah, I'm done then. Chico had all the studio equipment. You know, I had all the plugs with all the rappers. Everybody was coming through. It was gonna be a marriage made in heaven. You know, this theater was gonna be like this oasis on Crenshaw Boulevard. You know, where I went and talked to the 20s and what's that, West Boulevards. There's two separate gangs that fight right there, and I went and talked to all of them. And I was gonna give them security guard jobs, and they was gonna help me, you know, keep the place safe.
And as you're doing the deal, the FBI swoops in.
Yeah. I mean, and I could see why. I mean, had they not arrested me then, you talking about where Boosie would have been. My God, I probably would be worth, I don't know. I probably might be part owner of Apple. You know, they might have to come and talk to me when they get ready to go talk to Apple or Microsoft or some of them other companies. Because I can see with my mindset. And I used to didn't think this about myself. You know, I used to be a humble guy. You know, somebody who be like, oh, you ain't nothing. You just one of the old boys in the hood. You know, you might get killed for you 25 years old. And I never thought about myself like I think about myself now.
And you were how old at the time?
When I started selling drugs?
No, when the FBI swooped in on that deal.
35.
35.
35. I just turned 35. They got me a couple months after my birthday.
And after the FBI swooped in, you looked over and Blandon was actually laughing at you.
He did.
Why do you think that is? You guys have made millions of dollars together.
He had no real love for me. I was just a pawn in his game. And, you know, going by what Gary Webb said about some of the tapes, you know, he said, just another nigga.
Well, because of setting you up, he was let free. He moved back to Nicaragua. Now he has a.
He didn't move back to Nicaragua. I had him kicked out the country.
What do you mean?
I found out that he was an illegal alien. An illegal alien can't have a green card in America unless the President of the United States gave it to him or the Attorney General.
Okay.
Those are the only two people.
So
So when I filed those papers, they had no choice. And they put the DA agent, they put the INS agent, all of them went on the witness stand. And they all lied. They all said, I didn't know an illegal alien couldn't have a green card. The INS agent, he said that the DA agent never told him that the guy was convicted.
okay.
So I kicked him out the country.
You kicked him out.
Yeah.
And now he's back in Nicaragua and he has a successful lumber company.
Something like that.
Something like that. But he didn't have to do his 4 life sentences.
Yeah. He won.
He won. You get sentenced to life. You can't read. In fact, you said 60% of cons,
65.
65%
Can't read.
of cons can't read. 2/3.
And then there's probably another 10% that can't comprehend what they read.
Right. So like 3/4 really do not have basic reading ability.
Yes. So education, not only do it affects your ability to live, but if you accidentally get by without getting killed, you're going to wind up in prison.
Yeah. You talked about how at one point you started cleaning cells and how everyone would come over to see the drug kingpin cleaning cells.
They be laughing at me. I be laughing at them. I said, if you know what I knew, you be in here with me on this floor cleaning this cell.
Well, in the process, though, your kids end up in foster care.
Yeah.
How many kids?
2.
I know people that have gone through the foster care system. It's pretty bad. In fact, most people that I talked to who were in foster care, they were like, I'm like, how many foster care homes do you have? 25, 30. Like, they give these just ridiculous numbers. You think, oh, you go to foster care, you just get a nice family that should live there from now on. No. You're getting bounced from house to house. No telling what type of abuse is happening in each of these houses. Usually people who house foster kids are doing it just for the check. They really do not care.
Yeah.
How bad did that hurt you?
It hurt bad. It hurt bad. And then after I got out and I talked to my son and he told me how they didn't mistreat him like some, they didn't molest him or nothing like that, but they were not treated the way they were treated at the house.
Of course.
And even with my kids didn't have to go to foster home. My mom had a house. But my mom whooped one of the kids and he told, and that was the reason that they had to go to foster home.
What about the mothers?
Their mom was on crack.
Did you ever think for a second, like, here I have this child in foster care because their mom is on crack, and
I used to give her crack.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely.
And you used to give her crack
1,000 times. But not just my family, because I couldn't just think about mine. I had to think about all the other families
Yeah.
that I sold crack to. Because I understood that when I sold a kilo, that the bottom guy might break it down and take a 5 hit and sell $5. And who he sold that $5 to, who knows? That I may never know who that end result was. I knew that the cocaine that I sold sometime would end up in Oklahoma, Tennessee, Chicago, New York. So when I started to think about what my kids was going through, I had to think about what all the other people's kids were going through as well.
Well, you eventually beat the odds and you beat your case because you were able to prove that it was a continuous criminal spree.
Yeah, you got it. Most people don't even know about that word.
Yeah. Basically meaning that you couldn't get convicted for the same crime multiple times. It was all the same crime.
Correct.
That's
same mindset.
Same mindset.
Not the same, necessarily the same crime because it's in different cities, different states, with different authorities, but the same mindset. And you can't punish anybody 3 or 4 times because they have one mindset.
Well, and you actually had to go state to state and plead guilty
I did.
as you were actually in handcuffs. So you'd go to this state, plead guilty, go to that state, plead guilty, and you're in jail the whole time.
A lot of jails. New Mexico, Kentucky, Texas. I've been in a lot of jails.
And this was all in order to get your conviction overturned.
No, that was just so I could be taken to trial.
Ah, okay.
No, they wouldn't take you from jail to get you.
Okay, I thought that was part of the continuous.
That was all part of the continuous spree.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. Got it.
Or to be brought to justice for the continuous spree. Yep.
So you finally get out. And as you get out, your mother at that time owes $440,000 on her house when the house itself is only worth $220,000.
Yeah.
She was upside down
Yep.
in her mortgage.
Yep.
And then at 85 years old, she finally had to just foreclose.
Yeah, they foreclosed on her.
An 85-year-old woman who is someone you love dearly. This is the only parent that you had around your whole life. In fact, you're doing a lot of these initial drug sales so you could get your mom a new kitchen.
Absolutely.
So you could
I didn't want roaches no more.
No more roaches.
No more roaches, no more rats, no more broken windows with cardboard in it. All that was over.
Yeah. You're doing all this for your mother.
She had a washing machine. I put my mom a washing machine in her house. She didn't have to go to no more laundromats.
But here you are, 2013, and all your mom's stuff is on the front lawn. And she has to basically leave the house that she was probably going to pass away in, that she was planning on living in for the rest of her life.
Absolutely.
How hard was that?
It was tough. Tough. Not only her, but I was living in the house with her with a newborn.
Yeah.
I had a brand new son when we got put out. And I was the one that answered the door when the marshals knocked on the door and told us that we had the opportunity to get all the furniture out. So it was tough, man. But, I stuck it. And my mom passed in my bedroom in a brand new house. She told me thank you for making this possible so that all my friends had a place to come. So I still wind up, at the end of the day, seeing her go out the way she wanted to. And that meant a lot to me. After, because she had started going through her little old-timer stages too, so she would kind of start blaming me for the house being in foreclosure, like I had borrowed the money. Like, Mom, I was in prison when y'all borrowed that money. But to see her go out the way she went out was okay with me. I was like cool with that.
Yeah. That's actually great. I didn't know about that last part.
Yeah, I know. Most people don't.
Yeah, because she was living in an apartment with you and...
No, she was staying in an apartment. I was homeless.
Ah.
I was homeless really for about a year. A friend let me stay. He managed some apartments, so it was a vacant apartment. And he let me live in one of the vacant apartments, me and my kids and the mama.
Wow.
And my mom stayed in her place. So she moved out of her place and moved when I bought the new place. Because I bought a 2-unit. These new 2 units that they building in L.A. with the 4 bedrooms and the 3 baths. So I bought one of those with 2 units. And so I had plenty of bedrooms. So I was like, Mom, you ain't got to stay over there in the apartment no more. You can save that money and come on over here and live with me. And that's what she was living at when she passed.
Sorry for your loss.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't just my loss. Mom was like, I didn't go to her funeral because I don't do funerals. But they say it was like, just like mobs of people from all over. My mom she wasn't a Crip or a Blood either.
Yeah.
So you know,
Yeah.
both sides came, and I mean, it was just, you know, they said it was really nice.
Yeah, I just lost my dad recently, so
Sorry to hear that too.
yeah, it's one of those.
I went and played tennis.
That's what you did that day.
That day I went and played tennis.
You know, I interviewed Melvin Farmer recently. That was one of the founders of the A-Tray,
I know the name sound familiar.
the A-Tray Crips. He said something interesting. He said that Crips and Bloods were anti-black organizations, and they stopped the civil rights movement. That's why he ultimately left the Crips himself. He said that most of the violence that these groups do are against their own people. Well, you said something interesting. You said they've always had gangs. The only difference with the Crips and Bloods is they're anti-black. Mm-hmm. Everything else was pro-black. Mm-hmm. That's why I stopped. That's why the movement stopped.
Yeah, the civil rights movement stopped because of Crips and Bloods. When we started going to prison, we had to fight the Mexican mafia, the black guerrilla family. We coming in there following George Jackson, Geronimo Pratt. These were, they just had the San Marin shootout where they went and tried escaping from San Quentin up from Soledad to Soledad Brothers and all that. And here it is, a group of young blacks coming in for getting into it with blacks. They didn't like that.
Do you agree?
I agree.
Explain.
Well, you know, when I used to steal cars, I would always go out to the valley and steal my cars because I knew it wasn't no blacks living out there. And I didn't want to steal from people who looked just like me and who didn't have no more than I had. But what happens with gangbangers is we shoot the people right across the street from us or the people stay right down the block from us, and it's usually people who look just like us.
Yeah, and they're dealing drugs not in some other city or some other town. They walk outside.
And they sell it to us.
They sell it to their neighbors, to their relatives, to their friends, to the parents of their friends. And in the process, they destroy their own community.
Absolutely.
Maybe not that day, but you fast forward to a couple
South
months, to a
Central
couple
right
years.
now. Right now, my old neighborhood, none of the people who stayed there when I stayed there stayed anymore.
Yeah.
And I credit crack to having a big impact on that happening. I mean, you know, when we first started, it looked like we were all winning. But, you know, once it takes its tally and you total it all up, you know, it looks like what it looks like now.
Is there a consciousness when that's happening? Or is it, look, I just got to make this money and...
Well, you know, we had never saw crack addicts then. You know, it wasn't a crack addict in 82, 81.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just people who freebased. And the people who were freebasing just happened to be the cool people. I mean, like the rapper that you was just talking about who OD'd on the pill.
Yeah, Juice WRLD.
Yeah, you know, to him, taking, what it was, Molly or Percocets?
Percocets, I think, yeah.
We just Percocetting, I guess, whatever they call it.
What's
well,
the
back
big deal?
then,
Yeah.
it was just freebasing. You know, Rick James was freebasing. Quincy Jones and
Richard Pryor.
Don Canillas.
Right. That's actually how Richard Pryor lit himself on fire.
Exactly.
Freebasing. But I guess the difference between freebase and crack was you had to mix the cocaine with ether.
Yeah, but that's just a formality.
It's the same shit.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You're doing the same thing. You freebasing. Both of them was freebasing. And you know what freebasing is? A freebaser is somebody who bases without no money.
Okay.
He's a freebaser. You got it?
Yeah, I got it.
That's how you get to be a freebaser.
Right.
When you base with and you ain't got no money.
You ain't got no money.
So you're a freebaser. So it really was all the same products. So it was no difference.
How do you feel about it now? Almost 2020.
Wow, that's a complicated question. Because there's a lot of answers.
Yeah.
You know, I tricked off my neighborhood. I let talents that's one day going to be considered some of the greatest talents on the planet be used the wrong way. Had I found a different product and put those same talents to work, I would be going down in history right now in a total different way. Because I'm going to wind up going down in history a different way anyway, but I'm just saying we wouldn't be talking about crack right now. We would be talking about how was you able to do what you did in this country.
Yeah. How did you amass $1 billion worth of real estate?
Exactly.
You know, like the Grant Cardones that I interviewed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How was you able to take over boxing? And how was you able to do marijuana? How did you take over the clothes? And how did you take over the music business?
Yeah.
You know, how did you do all this? You know, how are you one of the greatest motivational speakers that ever lived?
Right.
How are you able to help all of these people get money? How are you able to do this?
Yeah. But instead, we're talking about your $1 billion drug operation
Right now.
right now. But you have a lot of years left.
A few.
Yeah.
I'm a vegan.
You're a vegan.
No
you're
salt,
healthy.
no sugar, no butter. Haven't drunk a soda in 30, 40 years. No milk.
Yeah, you look great.
I can still do 300 push-ups. Not in one set. But give me 10.
30. 30 times 10.
Yeah, 30 times 10. And I might give you 5 to grow on.
Well, here's my last question. We touched on this earlier, how in the Bay Area they were releasing dispensary licenses to people affected by the war on drugs as a form of reparations. What do you think about reparations for descendants of slaves in America?
Wow. You didn't go there. No, you didn't go there. Do you know that slavery could have been what started me selling drugs?
Explain.
I tell people that you can't judge me until you know my story. So in order to know my story, you got to go all the way back to where it started. And we started over here. We're the only people on the planet that come over here in handcuffs, in shackles.
Yeah.
So they've been practicing jail with us from day one. Just like the 13th Amendment is the only way right now that you could be made to be a slave in America, and that's if you commit a crime. They got a thing that they call post-traumatic slave syndrome. And they say that certain things can be passed down in your DNA.
I agree.
So
Trauma.
you will see things and remember things that you don't even know where they come from.
Yeah, the trauma.
Trauma.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with that.
So I feel that if they say that trauma can be transpired, then it may be a thing where your great-great-grandfather was so enthusiastic about being free that he was willing to do anything for that. And that also could have been passed down into the DNA. Because we pick up skills, and I have skills that I don't know where they came from.
Yeah, and you could even trace it to the way certain children are raised. Like, for example, when you're 3, 4, or 5 years old, you're making mud pies, you're creating imaginary situations, and those seem real to you. An adult looks at a mud pie and looks at it as mud, but a 5-year-old looks at a mud pie and thinks, oh, that's really a pie.
That's a pie.
During that stage in a child's life, when their parents are saying, you're never going to succeed, the system is built against us,
A nigga ain't shit.
these types of things, that's when you're forming a
I
person's
wouldn't let a
perception.
nigga do nothing for me.
these types of things are being embedded into that child's life for the rest of their life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And as they go through life, things are happening and they don't know why. Because early on,
And it's embedded by the people that they love
exactly, their parents.
and that they cherish.
Yeah,
So when they tell you that, you take it to heart.
yeah,
And what's worse than that, though, is even the actions. Because, actions is more powerful than a word. So when you show the action of that, then the kid falls into that mode and believe that that's the action that they should be taking as well.
yeah. Like I'm an immigrant. I came over here and the only thing I saw and heard was there's so much opportunity. This is so much better than being in communist Russia. I'm going to succeed. I'm going to succeed. I'm going to succeed. That's all I knew growing up. So the fact that I'm successful now, to me, is just not a surprise. It's something I've always assumed will happen sooner or later. But if I was in a completely different type of environment,
Like me.
like you,
I never thought that I could be doing the stuff I'm doing now. I never thought that I could go to Brown University and speak at an auditorium full of kids, some of the smartest kids in the world,
Yeah.
and they would listen to me. I never thought.
yeah,
I never thought that I would have my own sweatshirt with that's my picture
yep,
on it. I never thought. I never thought that I could be talking to the greatest boxer in the world and he would listen to me. He would talk to me. And maybe even let me give him some advice. It's amazing.
yeah,
And if you never see yourself as that, then you can never be that. So it's very important that I do my mission. That's why my mission is bigger than money. It always has been. Cocaine was just to prepare me for the mission that I had to do, so that the people that I have to reach is going to be able to relate to me. See, I had to go out and play crazy because I could always read. I just didn't know the formula. So once somebody showed me the formula, then it hit, bam, because I was always sharp. And my boy told me, he told me George Lewis from San Diego. He said, man, you one of the sharpest dudes in here. What you mean you can't read? And it came to me that, yeah, you are sharp. How can you see in the future, but you can't read on this piece of paper? See, I could always see in the future because I saw when Mike showed me cocaine for the first time, I saw it. My little brother could tell you. When I came home that day, I said, man, if Mike ain't lying, we finna be running L.A. It was a little $50 piece, about big as a match head. Because I could see that. But I couldn't see the effect of not being around people that was doing business had on me. Because I never saw nobody who do business. When I first met a lawyer, I was looking up to the lawyer. It was only when I started to practice the law for myself to find out that he may not be as sharp as you. You might be a little more clever than he is, Rick. You might have been underestimating yourself.
yeah. Nipsey Hussle had an interesting quote. He said, if you look at the people in your circle and you don't get inspired, you don't have a circle, you have a cage.
It's dope. Dope. So, when I was in prison, what I did, I had to create a circle. So I started buying their books. I started reading about them, what they eat, where they go, who they hang out with. And all that formulated a plan, created a vision. for myself. A vision like ain't nobody seen before. People gonna be shaking their head. Like, cause now what everybody say, like all my friends, y'all know who I'm talking about, all the homies. Well, man, you can do stuff because of your name. So I pat him on the back like this. I said, well, homie, you was right there with me when I made that name. I say, how'd I do it before I made the name? Man, I got some stuff in store, man. I got some stuff in. You gonna be wanting to talk to me? I'm gonna be charging though pretty soon, Vlad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be, it's getting to the point now where I'm gonna be like, oh man, they want to talk to them. I ain't talking. I take all my phone calls right now. Mm-hmm. I'm finna hand my phone over.
Okay.
So the guy that's gonna pick it up, he gonna be like, oh, you want to talk to Rick, huh?
It's gonna cost you.
Hey, if you read the book, it was in the book. Mm-hmm. Little Stevie used to take all my phone calls and say, hey, man, this such and such. You want to talk to him? And it's getting like that right now to where, you might call my number one day, and in order to get through, you might have to pay $500. I see that coming.
It's a good thing.
For me. And for them, too. We don't want to waste nobody's time. So many opportunities are coming now. This thing right here, man, this thing is amazing. This thing, we didn't give it to people for eczema, pain in the elbows, knees, and the homie's been like, Rick, this is it. So I bought you some so you could try them out too.
Okay.
But I'm just getting so many opportunities like this now. What if I'd have been able to sell this instead of crack cocaine? Somebody would have came up, Mike would have gave me these, say, here, man, I'm going to give you 2 packs of these. Go sell them, they $25 each, and they're going to make the scar on the face go away. It's going to stop the pain in the knee and make you think better. Could I have sold that?
Probably.
I wonder.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it and see.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and see if I could have sold it. Because if I could sell it now, I could have sold it then. But that's how I'm seeing it now.
Hey, Freeway Ricky, always a pleasure. Congrats.
Likewise.
Every time I see you, I feel like you're elevating.
And if Snowfall get a Grammy or Emmy or any awards, that's my award. That's my award. If they get an award, that's really mine. So don't nobody forget that. If Snowfall get nominated, 'cause I was driving down the street the other day and some say, man, you finna get a Grammy or Emmy or one of them awards. And the only thing I could think about was Snowfall.
Snowfall. Which I still like. I still think it's a great show. But it is your story. I've always admitted that. I've always admitted that.
So if they get the award, give me a shout out.
Yeah.
All right.
Bring you on stage.
All right.
Bring you on stage to accept it. Freeway Ricky Ross, always a pleasure, man. Keep pushing and keep doing your thing. Keep inspiring.
I got to do that, man. The people, they love your show. Mm-hmm. That's why I keep coming.
Yeah.
Because they love your show and they're learning from your show, man. That's the main reason that I've been coming on your show, because they learning from your show. These guys are watching you, they studying me, and they getting game. Hey, my 3 favorite books, Think and Grow Rich, Richest Man in Babylon, As a Man Think or As a Woman Think. Go get them books.
We'll actually put links to those books at the bottom here so you could actually order them. All right, man. Until next time, 21 Keys to Success.
Get it.
Get it. Until next time. Peace.